So Chuck Feeney made billions, like selling luxury goods. But he lived in a tiny rented apartment, took the subway, and gave away $8 billion until he had practically nothing left.
Yeah, literally gave it all away.
Right. Welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring this radical concept of the naked donation. And we're looking at a thought-provoking sermon by Pastor Huza Cam.
Which is actually based on a John MacArthur devotional, yeah.
Exactly. Our mission for you today is to explore this surprising connection between ancient scripture regarding spiritual purity and this modern phenomenon of billionaires giving away every last dime.
I mean, it sounds like a massive leap, right? Going from ancient scripture to modern philanthropy.
Yeah, it really does.
But the text connects them through a single concept from Matthew 5:8. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God."
Okay, pure in heart.
Right, and the sermon argues that an impure heart isn't just about moral failings. It is fundamentally about ignorance and self-centeredness.
Ah, I see.
So purity, according to the source, is what grants actual spiritual vision.
That makes me think of like a camera lens.
Oh, how so?
Well, if the lens is focused entirely on, say, a speck of dust on its own glass, everything in the distance, the actual landscape, becomes a total blur.
That is a brilliant way to picture it.
Thanks. So purifying the heart isn't just about cleaning the lens. It's changing the focal length from internal to external. How does the text say this shift alters a person's reality?
Well, by changing that focal length, the text argues you can finally interact with the divine. I mean, the sermon brings up historical figures like Moses in Exodus and King David in the Psalms.
Right.
They weren't just casually acknowledging a higher power, they actively yearned to see it.
They wanted that clear vision.
Exactly. And the premise here is that once your focus shifts to that profound reality, superficial earthly desires they naturally fade out. They simply cannot compete for your attention anymore.
Which perfectly bridges the gap to the material world. I mean, it makes sense that ancient figures were focused on the divine, but applying that today usually clashes head-on with our modern obsession with wealth.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge clash.
Right. So the sermon points to a radical financial concept to bridge this gap, which is the naked donation, or luo wan in Chinese. It's the act of giving away your entire fortune.
Right. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are famous for this, but the sermon notes they were actually inspired by Chuck Feeney.
The luxury goods guy.
Yes. His philosophy was that maximizing your spiritual bandwidth requires zeroing out your material worth. He famously reasoned, you don't need money in heaven, so he just removed the distraction entirely.
Wow. It is a fascinating irony, though. He builds an empire on luxury goods, then lives out of a suitcase to keep his focal length clear.
Yeah, the irony is definitely there.
But let me push back here. Is this kind of extreme detachment just a billionaire's luxury? It feels incredibly easy to say money doesn't matter when you've already had all of it. Is it actually a practical lesson for the rest of us?
That is a completely fair challenge. I mean, it's much easier to detach from wealth when your basic needs are met forever.
Exactly.
But the sermon grapples with this by arguing that the real danger isn't the dollar amount in the bank, it is the transactional mindset behind it.
Okay, what do you mean by transactional?
Well, the text warns against treating faith as, like, a prosperity gospel. The idea that if you believe, you will automatically be rewarded with riches.
Ah, right.
It references the biblical analogy that relying on wealth makes entering God's kingdom harder than a camel passing through the eye of a needle.
Because human attention is, well, it's a zero-sum game. If money is neutral, the problem is the pursuit itself.
Absolutely.
Every ounce of focus spent hustling for status or just feeding that modern urge to endlessly treat yourself with a designer bag that is an ounce of focus stolen from experiencing the divine.
Or even just being present in reality.
Yeah.
The psychology outlined in the sermon is fascinating. It points out that rushing blindly after wealth guarantees you miss the grace right in front of you.
You're shifting that camera lens right back to the dust on the glass.
Exactly. And practically speaking, the text bluntly reminds us that you cannot take a single cent into a 6-foot coffin.
Wow. Yeah, that puts it in perspective. So whether you are examining this through a theological lens or just as a practical life philosophy, the source is really issuing a challenge to slow down.
Yeah, an argument for temperance.
Right, refusing to be entirely consumed by the endless hustle.
It's challenging us to evaluate what genuinely holds lasting value when all the, modern distractions are stripped away.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a really compelling question to mull over today.
It really does.
If achieving true clarity requires giving up our deepest earthly attachments, What does a naked donation look like for those of us who aren't billionaires?
That's the big question.
Right. If we don't have vast fortunes to give away, could the ultimate radical donation actually be our most fiercely guarded resources? Our time and our attention.